frantic, cornered, completely unhinged. The President of the United States is spiraling in real time, and the panic is pouring out in a deranged late-night posting spree that reads less like leadership and more like psychological collapse. Donald Trump is not projecting strength tonight. He is projecting fear. Raw, desperate, unraveling fear. And it is happening because everything around him is starting to fall apart. In the span of minutes, Trump is claiming that Gavin Newsom has dropped out of the presidential race. There is no presidential race involving Newsom. He is not running. He was never running. Yet Trump is posting as if he is battling imaginary opponents while his own approval numbers are sinking and the stock market is plunging nearly 1,000 points in a single trading day. That's not spin. That's not exaggeration. That is a commander-in-chief inventing realities as his presidency wobbles. This is not politics. This is instability. At the same time, he is declaring world peace while Russia is escalating attacks on Ukraine, Gaza remains engulfed in bloodshed, and he is openly threatening to drag the United States into war with Iran. He is reposting recycled grievances about Obama-era officials as if we're trapped in 2017. He is sharing AI fantasy clips of himself punching Canadian hockey players, while American women's gold medal champions are canceling their White House visit after being mocked. It's grotesque, it's humiliating, and it's incriminating. Because beneath the manic bravado is the real nightmare. Reports are surfacing that even his own military leadership is warning allies won't back a war with Iran. And Trump is publicly contradicting them, insisting the war would be easily won, after previously claiming Iran's nuclear program was already obliterated. You cannot obliterate something twice. Markets are falling, lawsuits are mounting, allies are distancing themselves, and Trump isn't responding with strategy. He's responding with magical thinking. This is what regime panic looks like. Donald Trump is now trying to gaslight the entire country, and the receipts are devastating. Because let's remember what he has been saying for months. He has been insisting that everything is under control. He has been bragging that the economy is booming. He has been claiming that Iran's nuclear program was totally obliterated. He has been telling his supporters that the world has never been safer. That's the fantasy he is selling. Now let's look at what he is actually doing. He is posting at all hours of the night, inventing opponents, threatening war, contradicting his own generals, and lashing out at anyone who questions him. That's not strength. That's panic management. Let me show you the clip, or rather, let's look at what he really said in his own words. He posts that reports about General Daniel Razin Kane opposing war with Iran are 100% incorrect. He claims Kane believes a war would be something easily won. Easily won. Those are his words. This is the same president who previously declared that Iran's nuclear capabilities were blown to smithereens by US bombers. So which is it? If the nuclear program was obliterated, why are we now preparing to obliterate it again? If Midnight Hammer already ended the threat, why are allies reportedly refusing to back another strike? You cannot have it both ways. Either the mission was a success, or it wasn't. Either the threat is gone, or it isn't. This is classic gaslighting. And while he is denying internal dissent, the economic reality is punching through the spin. The Dow is dropping nearly 1,000 points. The S&P is sliding. The Nasdaq is down. Major corporations like FedEx are suing the United States government after the Supreme Court strikes down his tariff scheme under the IEPA. That's not fake news. That's litigation. That's the private sector rebelling against chaotic leadership. Yet Trump keeps repeating the line that factories are popping up everywhere. J.D. Vance is echoing it, promising a Trump boom that nobody can actually see. Where are these factories? Where are the jobs numbers reflecting this explosion? Because the markets are not behaving like they believe it. And here's where the contradiction becomes humiliating. On one hand, Trump is portraying himself as the ultimate deal maker who would rather have a deal than war. On the other hand, he is publicly boasting that if a military decision is made against Iran, it will be a very bad day for that country. That's not diplomacy. That's chest-thumping escalation while claiming to want peace. Meanwhile, he is declaring world peace as Russia intensifies attacks on Ukraine and Gaza remains in crisis. He is reposting grievances about Obama-era officials as if that somehow stabilizes global security. He is sharing AI fantasy clips of himself punching Canadian hockey players while American athletes are canceling White House visits in protest of his behavior. This isn't messaging discipline. This is flailing. And the most telling part? He writes, "I am the one that makes decisions." That line is not confidence. That line is insecurity. That is a leader who feels the walls closing in and is overcompensating. Because when everything is going well, you don't have to scream that you're in charge. When you are secure, you don't have to invent enemies. When you are winning, you don't have to rewrite reality in real time. The receipts are clear. The contradiction is undeniable. The panic is escalating. Now let's go deeper, because this is where the paper trail starts telling a much darker story. I want you to focus on the timeline, not the spin, not the late-night rants, the timeline. Let's start with his post about General Daniel Razin Kane. I'm reading directly from what Trump is putting out. He says that stories circulating about Kane opposing war with Iran are 100% incorrect. He insists the general believes military action would be easily won. He claims Kane knows Iran well and that Iran's nuclear development site was blown to smithereens by our great B-2 bombers. Pause right there. Blown to smithereens. Totally obliterated. That's the language he has already used to describe the prior strike. So now we have a contradiction sitting in plain sight. If the capability was destroyed, why are we discussing another military confrontation? What exactly are we striking this time? Rubble? You can't make this up. Now let's layer in what is being reported simultaneously. That allies are hesitant, even unwilling, to back a new confrontation with Iran. That U.S. military resources are stretched thin. That internal discussions are reflecting concern about capabilities and escalation risk. And Trump's response isn't reassurance. It isn't clarity. It's bluster. I am the one that makes decisions, he writes. That line is critical. Because that's not a strategic explanation. That's a defensive reflex. That's someone who feels authority slipping and is reasserting it publicly. Now let's look at the economic side, because this meltdown is not happening in a vacuum. On the same day this Iran rhetoric is escalating, the markets are tumbling. The Dow is down nearly 1,000 points. The S&P slides over a full percentage point. The Nasdaq drops as well. Investors are reacting to instability, particularly after the Supreme Court strikes down the tariff structure under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Let's talk about that ruling for a moment. The court is effectively saying the tariff maneuver exceeded legal authority. That's not minor. That's a rebuke. And immediately, companies begin responding. FedEx files suit against the United States seeking full refunds on those tariffs. That's corporate America saying, we relied on a policy that the highest court just declared unlawful. This is not partisan noise. This is institutional pushback. Now let's move to another layer, the financial flows that investigators are uncovering. Approximately $1.7 billion flowing from accounts at Binance, whose founder received a pardon, into Iranian-linked entities with alleged ties to sanctioned groups. That's not speculation. That's money movement. That's sanction exposure. That's global compliance risk. Gross. At the same time, Trump is posting AI-generated videos of himself punching Canadian hockey players. This is happening while the American women's gold medal hockey team cancels a White House visit after being mocked. Instead of celebrating athletic achievement, the moment devolves into ridicule and beer-chugging theatrics. That may seem trivial compared to war and markets, but it's not. It's cultural erosion. It's the normalization of spectacle over governance. Now, let's add foreign policy posture. Prime Minister Mark Carney is traveling to India, Australia, and Japan, actively cultivating trade relationships that reduce dependency on the United States. The BBC is reporting on transatlantic and trans-Pacific alignments forming without Washington at the center. Think about that. Allies are diversifying away from U.S. reliance. At the same time, Trump is threatening Iran and boasting about unilateral decision-making. That is strategic isolation unfolding in real time. And then you have Steve Witkoff, Trump's envoy, publicly describing Vladimir Putin as someone who has never been anything other than straight with him. Straight. Reliable, trustworthy. This is while Russia continues escalating attacks on Ukraine. You cannot simultaneously claim world peace and praise an authoritarian aggressor expanding a war. That is not coherent policy. That is magical thinking layered on top of geopolitical reality. Put it all together. Legal rebuke from the Supreme Court, corporate lawsuits demanding refunds, markets sliding sharply, allies hedging against U.S. instability, financial flows raising sanction questions, public contradictions about military readiness, and a president insisting everything is under control. This isn't one bad news cycle, this is convergence. Economic strain, diplomatic isolation, legal vulnerability, strategic overreach, and psychological volatility, all intersecting at once. That's why the late-night posting spree matters. Because when systems are stable, leaders don't spiral. When policies are coherent, they don't contradict themselves within weeks. When everything is working, you don't have to scream that it's working. The deeper you dig into the documents, the statements, the rulings, and the money trails, the clearer it becomes. This is not strength. This is a structure under pressure. And pressure is building. And here's the part that should concern every American watching this unfold. This is not an isolated episode. This is a pattern, a systemic unraveling. Because while Trump is insisting everything is easily won, he is increasingly ranting and raving like a man who knows the ground beneath him is shifting. Listen to the cadence. Watch the late-night posting sprees, the repetition, the exaggeration, the escalating language. This is not disciplined executive communication. This is agitation. We've seen this before. We saw it when he insisted the 2020 election was rigged without evidence. We saw it when he promised infrastructure weeks that never materialized. We saw it when he claimed COVID would disappear. Magical thinking as governance strategy. Now it's war and the global economy. He says the world has peace. Meanwhile, Russia is intensifying its assault on Ukraine. Gaza remains in crisis. Iran tensions are escalating. Allies are hedging. Canada is strengthening trade ties across the Pacific. Europe is recalibrating defense strategies with less reliance on Washington. That's not dominance, that's isolation. And let's talk about business acumen, because that myth is resurfacing again. This is the same man whose casinos went bankrupt. Casinos, a business model mathematically designed to generate profit, and he still drove them into the ground. Trump Steaks, Trump University, the airline, the vodka, the foundation shut down. Pattern after pattern of collapse wrapped in branding. Now transpose that record onto geopolitics. If you couldn't manage a casino, why should anyone believe you can manage a multinational alliance structure in the middle of nuclear brinkmanship? And while he is boasting about factories popping up everywhere, markets are reacting to tariff instability. The Supreme Court strikes down his maneuver. FedEx sues. Investors pull back. That's not what a manufacturing boom looks like. That's what volatility looks like. But the pattern goes even deeper. Look at the culture of grievance he keeps resurrecting, attacking Obama-era officials from nearly a decade ago. That's not forward-looking policy. That's obsession. That's a leader stuck in a loop, recycling old enemies to distract from present instability. Then there's the cognitive drift, inventing a Newsom presidential campaign that doesn't exist, declaring nuclear programs obliterated, then preparing to obliterate them again, claiming world peace while threatening war, praising Putin's reliability while Russian missiles continue flying. These contradictions are stacking, and when contradictions stack, institutions strain. Meanwhile, investigations are surfacing about money flows connected to sanctioned regions, questions about pardons intersecting with financial channels, allies reconsidering dependence, corporate lawsuits mounting. These are not random headlines. They are stress indicators. Add to that the spectacle, AI videos of himself punching hockey players, publicly mocking women athletes, beer-chugging theatrics at what should have been dignified ceremonies. This isn't trivial. It signals tone. It signals values. It signals priorities. Strong leaders don't punch down at athletes. Stable administrations don't escalate wars while markets are tumbling. Competent executives don't have to declare, "I am the one that makes decisions," as if trying to convince themselves. And politically, the cracks are visible there too. Polling volatility, special election underperformance in key districts, suburban erosion, younger voters disengaging, independent voters spooked by instability. When economic anxiety and geopolitical risk converge, incumbents don't benefit. This is not a single misstep. This is accumulation. Legal setbacks, economic turbulence, diplomatic isolation, cultural backlash, financial scrutiny, messaging incoherence. Each one alone is manageable. Together, They form a pattern that signals weakening control. History shows us something. Administrations rarely implode from one catastrophic event. They erode from compounding contradictions. And what we are watching right now feels less like a confident second-term consolidation and more like a regime reacting defensively to mounting pressure from every direction. Markets are speaking. Courts are speaking. Allies are speaking. Corporations are speaking. The only voice insisting everything is perfect is the one posting at 1:30 in the morning. That's not strength. That's a warning sign. What we are witnessing right now is the difference between reality and propaganda. Reality is markets dropping nearly 1,000 points. Reality is the Supreme Court striking down unlawful tariff schemes. Reality is major corporations suing the United States for refunds. Reality is allies hedging their bets and building new trade partnerships that don't revolve around Washington. Reality is escalating tensions with Iran while Russia continues its assault on Ukraine. Propaganda is declaring world peace while threatening war. Propaganda is claiming nuclear programs are obliterated and then preparing to obliterate them again. Propaganda is inventing imaginary presidential opponents while insisting everything is under control. This is the line in the sand. Democracy depends on truth. It depends on institutions that can withstand pressure. It depends on leaders who are grounded in reality, not magical thinking, not grievance loops, not late-night meltdowns masquerading as strength. We cannot normalize this chaos. We cannot shrug at contradictions that put global stability at risk, and we cannot allow spectacle to replace accountability. If you value independent reporting that calls this out directly, without fear, without spin, hit subscribe. Let's push this channel past the next milestone and keep building a platform that refuses to bend to propaganda. Support independent media. Share this video. Stay engaged because the truth matters now more than ever, and silence is not an option.